Hello everyone, Giltar here with part 2 of my review of the border brake model kit, the Heavy Guard Type 2, which is produced by Kotobukiya. Now in part 1 I ended that part of the review by going over the articulation, although there was some malfunctions in the parts for the hips. And so I did sort of neglect to mention one part of articulation, which is one of these hip thrusters. They just peg onto a peg here at the hip, so they do allow rotation. Also, there's this vent armor piece that does have hinged movement. And the front piece here just kind of went off. So yeah, it has hinged movement, and actually back here there are T-shaped pegs that allow you to connect these thrusters, which have two basic configurations. Either a sort of standard thruster sort of configuration where it's just barely peeking out from behind the vent armor, or you have an extended thruster for maybe sort of a souped up acceleration mode. I don't know because I haven't played these games. So you do have two configurations, and these are modular parts. They're actually made up of 3 cylindrical components that you just attach together to make it as large or small as you want. Very nicely detailed, really nice grooves for panel lining. One issue though there are some hollow bits in the back here, which you'll probably have to fill in with putty or another type of material if you don't want it to look kind of hollow and sort of cheap plasticky parts. But anyways, that's that. So let's move into the pros and cons of this model kit. I've got 2 cons. First of all, it is a little more expensive than it's worth, to be honest. As good as this product could be, at nearly $40 in the current marketplace that offers model kits of superior engineering and design, which are the high grade and master grade lines of models from Bandai's Gundam franchise, a $40 model kit that has the issues that this model has really isn't worth it. I'm a fan of Kotobukiya's products, but I will always admit they have some serious issues at times. Now the border brake Heavy Guard Type 2 has another issue aside from price: looseness of certain parts. Now really it's not a lot. For the most part it's really well done, very secure and stable, but I mean at a major point of articulation, which will have a lot of manipulation over time, the hips here, these components are very loose. They're sandwiched pieces that go together, and there's nothing securing them, so that once you manipulate the hip joints a little bit, it's just a matter of time before they fall apart. You're going to have to glue them, at least if this is just something particular to my Heavy Guard model, then yeah, maybe it's not an issue. But if it's something that's common to these model kits, then yeah, you're going to have to glue the hip pieces together, which is not a terrible thing, but it is for the most part a snap assembly model kit. And I will say that in the instruction booklet they do not mention the need to glue these parts together. That's the thing. I assume that normally you're not supposed to glue them, or you shouldn't have a need to. But for my model here, I definitely need to glue them together, because if they don't, they're just going to fall apart at some point in the future. Other issues with looseness of parts are the back of the hands have these little armor plates, and in the instructions it actually does say that you need to glue the trigger finger hands plate on, but it doesn't say you have to glue the plates for the other types of hands, like this open fingered hand here. Regardless, they're loose, and at least I will have to glue them on at some point. Another issue with looseness is the large cannon just simply does not fit well in the slot here. It's supposed to fit here, there's nothing else to secure it except for just, I guess, friction, but this is completely loose. There's no way that this is going to hold on its own. Really just poorly designed part here. I mean, the better way to design this is to make some sort of peg system, just to have this peg into the back so that it can be there and not have any worry of falling out. Just poorly designed there. So those are the cons. Moving on to the pros. First of all, despite the few parts that are loose, otherwise it is a solid and stable model kit. I really like the way that a lot of these parts are built up. You sandwich and put parts together, and it really does have a modular feel to this model kit's design, and it's something that you'll experience when you're going through the build process, that it's a really neat, interesting way to build a model kit. There are some semblances of like an inner frame structure, though they're not meant to be displayed. They require other parts to be sandwiched onto them, but it's a very interesting take on making a mecha model kit as far as snap assembly model kits. So that is something, that is, despite the few loose parts like at the hips, it is a fairly solid model kit. Another great thing about the model kit is just simply the design, the aesthetics. These are really more real robot designs. They look chunky, they look very mechanical and machine-like. They're not as anthropomorphized as Gundam designs, for example, or other designs from other popular mecha anime or manga series out there. These ones are very, very much machines that just simply resemble humans in that they're humanoid designs. But aside from that, they're very vehicular, very machine-like, very mechanical, very real robots. So if you're a fan of more realistic or more convincing-looking robot designs, you're going to like the Heavy Guard Type 2 and other Border Break model kits. Another great thing about this model is that it does actually have a good range of articulation, especially considering the bulk of the proportions. I mean, it's a chunky model kit, it's a chunky design, but it has the ability to significantly move the ankles, knees, hips, wrists, elbows, shoulders. It is a little hindered at the torso in that it can't turn that much, but it does have some nice bending at the waist. And the head itself does have good articulation, considering that it doesn't have really much of a neck. So it actually does have a surprisingly good range of articulation for the design. And just in general, it has decent articulation at the very least. Another good thing about it is just that it has some good accessories. I like the design of the bazooka, despite some loose parts. The machine gun as well, and the large cannon, which you can't currently store on the back. But aside from that, it's got some really great looking designs here. Again, the sort of realistic design aesthetic is reflected in both the design of the mecha and in the weapons. They look like larger conventional weapons in a slightly futuristic setting. They're still something that are believable. They're not laser or ray guns. They're all like, solid state or solid projectile weapons from what I can understand. So it just looks very, very nice for people who are fans of that design style. So that's pretty much it for all the pros and cons. So my final thoughts on this model kit. To be honest, I can't recommend this to the average gunpla enthusiast. And this is not meant to be derogatory or demeaning, but to be honest, in my observations, the average gunpla enthusiast, and by that I mean the person who really only has gunpla experience, you're not going to be able to cope with the difficulties of the issues that the Heavy Guard Type 2 model kit brings, namely the looseness of certain parts. You're going to have to glue in some parts. You're going to have to deal with that aspect of the model kit. And because of that, the average gunpla person probably doesn't want to do much more than simply assemble a model, maybe do some panel lining, maybe do some painting, and applying of stickers. With the Border Break model kits, and pretty much for all the other Kotobukiya model kits, they take more work and effort to make them sort of reach their potential. So yeah, I really can't recommend this to the average gunpla enthusiast. However, for people who are into model kits in general, who are also into mecha model kits and gunpla, now that you're aware of these problems, it's up to you to decide, but I think they're relatively minor, all things considered. If you're a person who really likes this kind of aesthetic of more realistic or convincing looking robots, and you are interested in doing a little more extra work in making these model kits better than they are, then yeah, definitely recommend it. However, again, we need to think about the price. It's nearly $40, and for a model kit that doesn't really blow most people's socks off in terms of engineering and design, it's hard to justify that price. Again, to be honest, in a market that offers the current level of design we find in high grade and master grade, and even in the upcoming real grade lineup, a $40 model kit of this level, I really don't think it's worth the price. I mean, and I'm a supporter of Kotobukiya and their products, but one consistent problem I have with all their products is that they're very, very expensive for what you get, and that is something you're going to have to consider if you want to buy a model kit like this. So overall, yeah, if you're an average gunpla enthusiast, you're going to want to stay away from this type of model unless you're looking for a challenge. For everyone else who has more experience and who, again, now are aware of some of the problems you're going to run into, if you see these problems and don't think they're a big deal, and if you can find this on sale somewhere, definitely go for it. It's a really nice design. The Heavy Guard Type 2, to me, kind of reminds me of a more realistic Zaku. If the Zaku design was re-envisioned, for a modern or more modern contemporary setting with more real robot in terms of aesthetics, then the Heavy Guard Type 2 is, to me, is kind of like the Zaku that could have been. It's a very, very cool design, and I really do enjoy it, and despite the criticisms I have of this model, I am glad that I bought it. So that's my review. I hope you guys enjoyed it and got something out of it. As usual, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.